Tim this morning. I'm obviously not Tim. Tim's brother went into the hospital yesterday evening. In Oklahoma City. They went up there. Tim and Beverly, they'll be up there today and start heading back tomorrow, depending on how he does. But they weren't expecting to make it really through the weekend. So be praying for Tim's brother. He said there's only 3 of them left. I believe there were 11 or 13 kids. I don't remember in his big family, but they're down to 3. So these are the remaining few. And so do want to keep Tim and Beverly and the family in our prayers as they go to see his brother in Oklahoma City. But as you know, this is our ministry fair. The convention that we have each year that highlights the different ministries that we have and the new ministries and things like that. And so our class is going to be somewhat abbreviated this morning. Give us time to go out and to look at the works that are available, to sign up for those works that are there. And there are new works. There are new members here that have never done this before, and so we do that. Plus those who've been through it before. Maybe there's something new that you have not done or hadn't considered, or something that you would like to get back into, and certainly that's kind of what we have this push for. Obviously, you can engage in these things, or you can decide to do this in June and go to one of the deacons and say, hey, I want to get involved in that ministry in June. But today, we make it easy for everyone to look at what is available and to get involved in that. As we think about our ministries, the idea of ministry has the idea, it comes from the same idea as administration, that we are engaged with people, that we are seeing to certain needs, to those either in the congregation or to the community, and especially to the world. We think about the state of mankind as being that of sin. When God created man, he was created perfect, right? There was nothing wrong with mankind. God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And in fact, God tells us that he made man after his own image, right? So there is a strike of the divine in mankind. And that's how man was created. Something beautiful, something perfect in the sight of God. But the problem is that man did not stay perfect. He fell. We went through what we refer to as the fall. He did that because he has free will, the ability to say, I want to do this or I don't want to do that. And so mankind fell. Well, how did that happen? Well, Genesis 3 tells us that the devil did what? Getting a lot of feedback in here. I don't know, or a lot of echo and reverb. I don't know if that's something y'all want to... Right, tempted Eve. So he tempted Eve, and she took of the fruit, and she ate the fruit which was forbidden, right? And then she did what? She gave it to her husband, Adam, and he ate of the forbidden fruit as well. And it's been observed that the very first sin was that of discontentment. What wasn't eating the fruit? It's when the devil tempted her and said, that this is something that you could eat, and she saw that the fruit was good for food. Well, did she not have any other food? Well, sure, there was food all over the garden, wasn't there? There was food everywhere. But all of a sudden, the food that she had was not the food she wanted. Do we sometimes fall into that same deal? The same mentality? The things that we have are not the things that we want. And she became discontented with the food that she had, and there pulled the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and ate. Notice also the devil is playing on her pride. How does he play on her pride? That's right. You'll be like God. God knows you won't surely die. He knows you will be like him. And so he comes and he tempts her at pride, discontentment, And she takes the bait. She takes the devil's bait. And how often does the devil tempt us in our pride? Every place. It seems like you start naming sins and of mankind, and oftentimes it's that selfish pride that leads to these sins. The devil's good at what he does. He's no fool in that sense. And they fell. Mankind fell from God's grace. And so Isaiah 59, 1 and 2 tells us what? That sin does what to us? It separates us. I think I heard someone over here say it. It says that it separates us. Behold, the ears of the Lord are not dull, that he cannot hear you. The arm of the Lord is not shortened, that it cannot reach you, but your sins have separated you from God. There is a gap between mankind and God. A breach in fellowship, a breach in intimacy between us and God. There's a gap there. And now God is calling for us to fill that gap. Let's look at Ezekiel chapter 22. Beginning in verse 29, it says, "The people of the land have practiced extortion and committed robbery. They have oppressed the poor and the needy and have extorted from the sojourners without justice. And I sought for a man among them who would build up the wall and stand in the breach before me, before the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none." The King James, "I sought for a man to stand in the gap." The world needs someone to stand in the gap between the world and God. Someone who knows God and knows what God's will is and is themselves following that will and is at the same time acquainted with the world, having come out of it. 2 Corinthians 6 and verse 17. Who could that possibly be but the church of God? Christians are called to stand in the gap between the world and God. But that's not the only gap. There are even gaps within the work of Christianity. We would say there are gaps in the ministries at Westhill. From benevolence to evangelism to edification to fellowship, all of these areas of ministry that we work in at Westhill, there are gaps. And these gaps are you-sized. They're me-sized. They're meant for us. And God, just as he needs someone to stand in the gap between the world and him, he needs people to stand in the gap in the church. Why? Because standing in the gaps in the ministry of the church makes the church stronger. And when the church is stronger, we will be more effective in reaching out to our community and changing people's lives. And when we change people's lives, that means we're bringing people into God's grace and they're being saved. We are filling the ranks of heaven. We are broadening the borders of the kingdom. But it means that I have got to stand in the gap. So, in just a few minutes, we're going to go to the ministry fair, as it were. And you're going to have an opportunity to look at the many different works that are there. Some of them are new, some of them are old, some of them haven't changed much, some of them have changed a lot. But I encourage you to go and look at each and every one of them. Talk to the men who oversee these works. Talk with those deacons. Find out what they're about. Find out if there's some new things that have changed or some new encouragement that you might have. Ask questions, but also on the other side of that, give suggestions. You may say, well, hey, I was visiting another congregation and they had a work similar to this, and here's something they were doing. Suggestions. That doesn't mean that we're doing it wrong. It means we're doing it differently, but it doesn't mean we can't look and evaluate and see, well, would something like that work at Westhill? But if you hold that close to your chest and you don't share that, we're not going to get to where we know that. So don't just ask questions. Discuss the work with the deacons that are there and make suggestions. How can our ministries and our works at Westhill grow? I think we looked a few weeks ago about driving a stake and seeing how we can change, how we can grow. Then, after you've looked and you've discussed these things over, find something that interests you. Find something that you can do, that your abilities fit into this particular area, or the things that you like, your hobbies, those things fit into this area. Or find something that challenges you. I've never done this before. I may or may not be good at it, but I'm going to try it out. And so you have this opportunity to find something that piques your interest. And then sign up. Now, some of you are saying, hey, I've signed up before, they've never called me. Or I've signed up before, nothing happened. The elders have challenged the deacons this year to follow up on those sign-ups. To make sure that if you put your name down, that you're going to get called in some way. But listen, our deacons are full-time workers. They have jobs they go to every day just like you do. And sometimes your name might fall through the cracks. So follow up yourself too. Don't just say, well, I signed my name, I'm done till next January. If you signed your name and you haven't been called in a week or two, call up that deacon. Hey, I really want to get involved. Here's the way I think I could help out. So sign up. And sign up multiple times. This is important because we're not just talking about filling a gap here. We're talking about changing the world and bringing others to Christ because of a strong church at Westhill. And your input, your hand to the plow, will make Westhill stronger. I believe that was the second bell, so we're going to be dismissed now to actually go to the kids already starting to gather out there. You better hurry up before Colton signs all the places. But go out and find out about these works and become part of them.